It's Monday, the 4th of April, 2022, and joining us this evening to help us preview round 2 of tomorrow's West Lancashire derby at Deepdale is Tom Harrison, who you may remember joined us before the big fat boo-inducing performance at Bloomfield Road back in October. I'm John Aspinall, and this is Seaside's podcast match preview show. It doesn't get any bigger than this. Preston North End versus Blackpool.
Already changed the world. A small town from the north of England with a great tradition. Big fat boo.
Well, get that in there. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the preview for the big one. It's the big one tomorrow. PNE versus.
You've done me with them
Blackpool.
two backgrounds, haven't you? There.
Just for everyone listening on the audio pod, my background, I'll move across. Is Wes. After that, Penn and Sean. Just want to tell the audio listeners what your background is.
Yeah,
I'll give everyone a clue.
Yeah,
Big fat boo.
it's a big fat boo man because apparently when I'm on my shifts at work, I spend my time sifting through screenshots of a man shouting at a football match and putting it behind as a background. So there you go.
It's a good use of your time, I would suggest.
It is. I agree.
Yeah, it's research, isn't it? All part of a journalist's toolkit. Anyway, welcome.
Any PNE fans watching, please no memes after this game. Can we try and avoid any memes or vlogs or audio cuts that people can take? Because I've had nothing but these off Tim for the past 5 months.
Leon just said big fat boo has a look of Athens. How do you feel about that, Joe? You see that, Leanne?
As long as you're not doing the big fat boo tomorrow night, that's the main thing, Joe. We don't want any.
Well, I think it's only fair that if Preston win, that Joe does that. We can have one from each side then.
I'll be big fat booing my eyes out if we lose. That's about it.
Anyway, welcome to the stream, everybody. Welcome back, Tom. Good of you to come back and get on again after the result at Bloomfield Road. So welcome. Do you want to just introduce yourself for those who may not have seen the first show?
Yeah, thanks very much for having me on again. I'm sure you were delighted to get me back on with the results at the end of October. Depressingly for Preston and our fans. So my name's Tom Harrison. I live and work on the Fylde Coast. I'm a local solicitor. That's how my link with Tim has come about. We've known each other for about 15 years now, and there's been plenty of banter backwards and forwards over the games over the years. Not so much in recent years. The last game obviously was 2013 until last October, but we've certainly made up for it in the last 5 months, and I can assure you, probably every other Saturday saying, "Oh, I'm back above you." No, you're not. I'm back above you now. So bad as each other, I think.
Yeah.
So
quite infantile behaviour. Some
anyway.
might just sounds quite infantile behaviour. Some might say for such astute and respected members of your local communities, in your profession.
My stock expression is "natural order is restored" when we go ahead of them. That's my stock phrase.
Well, we've got to justify the scandalous hourly billing that we incur.
Well, you're not wrong. I have heard plans about Tim's new car, but I won't disclose that on here, Tim.
Is it going to be tangerine?
Might have a tangerine wrap on it.
Right, let's get on with the show then. Tom, so quite a bit's changed since we last crossed swords in October. The main thing that has changed is Frankie McElroy was given the boot. Ryan Lowe's come in, so I guess you were pleased with that appointment, were you? And happy that Frankie McElroy left.
It's obviously sad when someone loses the job, but I don't think any other team in the 92 would have appointed Frankie McElroy going down even to League Two. He had no previous managerial experience, so it was a bit of a head scratcher at the time when he was given the job. We've had assistants taken over previously and they've done quite well. Billy Davies took over. You've got David Moyes who took over an assistant manager role. So you're thinking maybe there's something in there, but quite quickly, you could see that he wasn't the man for the job. We were very reactive. We were passive. We were sort of setting up not to lose rather than win. And that awful game at your place at the end of October, you could see that we didn't lay a glove on you for the best part of sort of 90 minutes. Apart from Ben Whiteman's open goal miss, that was probably the only meaningful thing in the game. So we then lost to Blackburn a few weeks later, and it was extremely depressing, as you'll have seen on Twitter and on the fan boards. And it was a bit of a surprise when he was obviously sacked. And it looks like that there was a plan in place to bring Ryan Lowe in quite quickly. And he appears to have rejuvenated the fan base. There has been an enjoyment in going back to games. We do have scored 1 or 2 more goals, and we do appear to be pulling in the right direction. But we've sort of petered out the last few weeks, the international break. We've got a bit of a hide into Luton. We lost at the weekend to Derby, and it feels like another season lost, another season of drifting along, and a big summer ahead with a huge number of players out of contract, and knowing what players Ryan Lowe want to bring in for next season. So it's going to be an interesting summer, I think, ahead for Preston.
So you've had some quite eyebrow-raising results under him. The one that stuck out for me was the win away at Bournemouth. So you've had some great results, and you also had some quite poor results away at Luton as well. So
Yeah.
what do you put that down to? This big swing of performances in result.
From what we've seen, he is quite an animated, passionate chap. That's one of his mantras. He's a passionate manager. I think he wants to play in the right way. We've not fully seen that yet. I think we've seen flashes of it. There's been occasions where we're 2-0 down at home to Sheffield United, and we managed to get back to 2-2 when we only had 10 men, and we sort of went all out attack second half. But I think him getting his ideas across to the players, him having his own players in and wanting to play in a certain manner. We've played, I think everyone, including kit man at left fullback or left wing back, were playing. And Brad Potts has now been converted to a right wing back. So clearly those are 2 key positions where he'll want to recruit in the summer. And I think it's of him trying to get across how he wants to play, his philosophy, and possibly not having the players to do that. Possibly having some players that are certainly looking beyond this season, and maybe they're preserving their own self with them being out of contract. Not that I'm saying they're not putting it in, but there has been occasions recently where we probably don't feel like everyone is fully committed. So I think really it's a case whenever you get a new manager and they haven't had 2-3 transfer windows to bring in who they want to play and how they want to play, that you've got that uncertainty, and performances are a bit up and down really. And we've stopped scoring goals recently as well, which is a concern.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been speaking obviously to a few people at work and stuff, and you're kind of in a little bit of a halfway house at the moment in terms of one eye on next season. Obviously, it's going to be a really important window for you. I know you brought in market insights, obviously the data company looking at targets already. Yeah. And because he's a manager that's got a defined system, a bit like Russell Martin, he's never going to sway away from it. But in games like this, you quite like him to adapt for these sorts of games at the moment, while you've not got the quality available to sort of play the way he wants to play, particularly as you say wing back, when you've got centre mids playing wing back, which it's just not really worked, has it?
No, it's a head scratcher. And I read before he came in that he's played 3-5-2 throughout his managerial career back at Bury and then at Plymouth. And he stuck to that until Saturday at Derby, where he played a 4-3-3. We don't have the personnel in terms of the wing-back roles for him to play that. And I think he's hamstrung himself, really, sticking rigidly since he's come into playing that 3-5-2. And it's probably not helped him because, probably as well as Potts has done, he's not a right wing-back, it's a specialist position. The same on the left side, he's chopped and changed. We've had, I think, 11, 12, 13 players that have played left wing-back this season. Ali McCann, who we've brought in, who's a central midfielder, he's played him there. He's played Daniel Johnson at left wing back, which is farcical when you think Daniel Johnson's best attribute is running on and making those late runs into the box. So I think he has hamstrung himself a bit by doing that, and maybe that's why the results have been up and down again. But he's obviously trying to explore the squad, see what there is in the squad, and got an eye on next season, and obviously trying people out in various positions, because we're a team that we can't have a 30-man squad. We can't afford to carry that, especially now with obviously Trevor Hemmings passing away. We've obviously got a mind towards that as well. So clearly he's going to have players that are versatile, that can play more than one position, and are reliable. And at the minute we have one or two players that are they're only really playing one position, and they're only really available for 15, 20 games a season, which we just can't rely upon.
You mentioned the passion that Roundlow sort of brought to Preston. So can we expect a vocal contingent, vocal support from your lot tomorrow night, do you think?
I would hope so. I think people obviously are desperate for revenge, if I use that terminology, from October. It was a thoroughly depressing day, not for you guys, obviously, seen all the videos, but for us it was, and it just felt awful, and people have been talking about it ever since. You always remember derby games that you lose, obviously, but I think certainly there will be an amount of frustration coming out and passion tomorrow, and hopefully we can put right what that's like quantum leap here, don't I? Put right what once went wrong, but to hopefully put right what the performance that happened in October, and hopefully the players will be able to put right that performance, because they spoke recently about they're disappointed that the season's petering out and they're disappointed at the result. Well, let's see it. You know, the manager, he stands on the touchline, he gives direction, but he's not the one that goes out onto the pitch, passes the ball, scores the goals, makes those tackles. So the players are going to have to step up tomorrow. If they don't, then it's not going to be nice.
As long as you don't do that half-arsed attempt at doing the Critchley celebration that I saw Roundlow do after one of your wins, it was quite sad, really. Quite
I think that
pitiful.
was at Stoke. That might have been at Stoke, actually.
Yeah. It wasn't quite up to Critchley or Cooper-esque, was it?
Well, no, I saw Cooper at the weekend for Forest. He made a rather good rendition on your round of that.
You did more than I did, because I deliberately bogged off on extra time, so I didn't have to.
Touche, I think there, Tim.
Yes, it was a saber. It was a thrust back there, wasn't it?
I don't know about you generally, but I always find going into derbies when people are talking about passion and things a little bit of a red flag. I always feel like I'd prefer my manager to be a bit more calm, collected, sort of talking about football, talking about how they're still just going to go about it the same way. I don't know, I always get a bit wary with that. But just onto another question I was going to ask you about Chris Kirchner, because obviously the takeover that never was. I don't know what your thoughts were on him, really. Obviously, that's the second club that he's supposedly been in for. I always think that when an owner's vocal on social media, it's you're on a bit of a hard into nothing. I think that, I mean, do we know a good owner that's vocal on Twitter? I mean, I wouldn't want Darren McAntony at my club personally, but I don't know what your thoughts are on the whole situation around that. And obviously, generally, I think the Hemmings family are probably willing to sell to the right person at the right price, and where you'd sort of like to see the club go, I guess, going forward.
I think it's no secret that the Hemmings family want to sell the club. They have said that obviously there is support from the family moving forward, but that's not going to be the same level of support that the late Trevor Hemmings offered since he took over in 2010. So we are up for sale. We have been up for sale for a long while. I've heard people call Chris Kirchner a serial tire kicker. This is the second club that he's sort of feigned an interest in, and then things have fallen apart. Maybe he's gone in at a price and then he's tried to knock it down after they've had their due diligence period. I don't know. We'll never know fully unless he decides to post something on Twitter. People were obviously getting very excited. We're going to have a on-paper billionaire coming in from America. We're going to have fan fest. We're going to have sausage and chips and everything outside, and craft beers for sale, and so on and so forth. I sat and looked at it and thought, why on earth is this man wanting to buy Preston? It didn't make any sense at all for someone with no links to the area coming over and wanting to buy a championship football club. Quickest way to become a millionaire is to be a billionaire and buy a championship club, they say. So that was my concern as to whether it was going to be a Toya play thing, flavour of the month. And you are worried considering the solid foundations that we've had in place over the last decade with Mr. Hemmings when he owned the club. But we obviously don't know what's going to happen. You've seen the accounts. Price of Football regularly put things on Twitter. We lose a lot of money annually, and to date, the Hemmings, or late Trevor Hemmings, has plugged that gap, and we've had continued share issues since he's died. How long that will continue for, obviously, we don't know the level of support that the Hemmings family still has, and whether they have a passion for football as well or not. So there is some uncertain times ahead, and who's going to take us over? I don't know. I think it's the training ground. I think it's cursed. It was Bolton's training ground, and then Wigan bought it, and then we bought it. So I'm just getting a bit nervous about this training ground that we bought at Upston now. But
maybe Owen's about to table a bid.
I think he's got
That'd
one
be funny,
more
wouldn't
club. He's got one more club in him as Owen, and he's got
Hit
that
him on
Tom.
my
He's still
castle.
got that Tom Finney bus, so he could return it to its proper home, couldn't he?
Oyster Mill as well.
I've supported Preston North End since I was a child. I'll buy them
Years
for
old.
£1. I'll buy them for.
We'll stay away from anyone with.
Anyway,
the
there's one way to stop losing money, and that's stop giving away tickets to all your games, so that you look like you've got a decent crowd there. Stop.
Well,
Make people pay.
I was waiting for people to be asking for a refund after Derby because I thought it set a bit of a dangerous precedent after Luton. You know, you win, lose or draw football. You don't go expecting a refund. So,
who instigated this refund thing? I'm guessing it wasn't the
It was
fans.
low, though,
No.
wasn't it? Really?
I'm guessing
I
it wasn't the
think- I
fans.
think it
I
was
can't
Ryan
imagine the
Lowe.
fans doing that.
I
Right.
could just
Okay.
imagine Peter Ridsdale being sat there listening to the
I know.
after-match talk, going, "Oh, Ryan, what have you said that for?"
Trying to pull the plug
exactly.
out of his bike.
Yeah, so I think his intentions were good and his heart was in the right place. But that's not what football is it? You know, we've been up and down the country watching Preston. I've seen us losing at Colchester, at Reading, at all these far-flung places, and you don't suddenly get on the phone on the Monday morning and go, "I'd like my ticket money back, please," because that was terrible. So
If I was Peter Ridsdale, I'd have said to Ryan Lowe, "Yeah, this is absolutely fine, but it's coming out of your wages." See what his take would have been then.
well, he's a rather fashionable chap. I think he wears his Prada jacket, so I don't think he's short of a few quid. But,
Okay, Sean, you had the pleasure of sitting in the press conference today, and you've taken in what both managers have said. Is there any key takeaways that you've taken away from that? Sean works for Lancs Live, by the way, Tom. He's a Blackpool reporter.
Yeah.
So he has privileged access being an accredited sports journalist. Isn't that right,
God.
Sean?
And he's
That
got
is
a blue
like
tick. He's got a
100%
blue tick.
Actually correct.
And he's got a blue tick, yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
do you have to pay for them?
Yeah, definitely. First minute in the job, I just went, I'll blue tick it. I think I was kind of expecting Neil Critchley to be relatively calm as he normally is, and just talking up sort of. He said it was different to another game, which I kind of weren't expecting to say, to be fair, because he's normally very much like this is any other game, but he's obviously saying preparation's been the same, everything's been the same, and then obviously Ryan Lowe didn't mention the word Blackpool or something. Our writer was saying throughout his press conferences some weird other brownie point thing that they seem to be doing. Whereas obviously we just kind of do our talking on the pitch. But yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? I think generally the difference is that I guess that we know we're adaptable. We can adapt to individual opponents, and I think that we're able to take game by game basis and kind of understand that different opponents will have different outcomes, and you do have to adapt sometimes. And I think that if you kind of already know exactly how your opponents are going to play, which generally I think in terms of the style of play, at least with Preston, I think we do. Obviously, if they do end up switching to a 4, then that shows that they are aware of the difficulties they've been having. I'd love them to play the wing backs that they've been playing. It'd suit us down to the ground. But obviously Sterling is the big one really, and he said that he will be a late fitness test. I'm kind of the mind that perhaps we won't risk him because A, he's not our player. B, I don't think we're willing to risk a player's fitness based on one individual game as much as it might be important to us. I think that's the right way to go. I think it's silly to risk a player's longer term future based off one individual game. Obviously, Gabriel's been out for 5 weeks, and he is in training the past couple of days. And it was basically a case of if Sterling's fit, he will play. If Sterling's not fit, then we might throw Gabriel in, or we might do neither. So essentially, you're getting nothing out of Neil Critchley, which is typical Neil Critchley. But I went Connolly at right back just to be safe in my predicted lineup, but I would not be surprised to see an array of players potentially at right back, really, when we're talking about who's available.
Tom, I know you've got your ear to the ground, shall we say, at Preston. So rumours going around that Ryan Lowe's told the players that they're losing the days off if they don't win tomorrow night. Have you heard anything about that?
Well, we got spanked at Luton, and half of them went on holiday to Dubai. So maybe that was a tongue-in-cheek comment that you made.
No, it's apparently it's half the press. It's a little bit of inside gossip that we've got from your camp. Just come through on my WhatsApp as we speak. So I thought with you knowing everything, you seem to have your ear to the ground. I wonder whether you heard it yourself.
No, I've not seen that. I mean, he's a bouncy scouser. That's the way I can.
In all honesty, I can't. I won't say it's a free hit for us, but because we've taken first blood, the pressure's probably a little bit more on Preston and the management to make sure that it's not a double, isn't it? It's not that we don't do the double over you. So I can imagine that there is perhaps more intensity at his end and more pressure at his end, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. Clearly, you're playing with house money at this stage, aren't you? You've nothing to lose. You won your game, and like you say, it's almost a dead rubber for both of us, really, in terms of where we are. But for the fact we're playing each other, it's a fairly meaningless game between two mid-table sides at this point in the season. I know Joe's
shaking his head at
all.
Sure,
I'm just trying to play this down. I'm just trying to play this down in case we lose again.
We know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Joe, you're shaking your head there. Come here, unmute yourself and come in on. Give us your two penny.
Biggest game of the season. And it would have been that way if we'd won on Saturday anyway. It's. I understand. I said it on the show yesterday before the power went out that it was the. We've had a good season, and just because we had a very iffy performance against Forest shouldn't deflect from the fact that beginning of April we're already safe and we still had an outside chance of the playoffs. We're having a great season, and beating Preston and Blackburn this week would be the absolute icing on the cake. Yeah, it wouldn't have mattered if we were both bottom of the league and already relegated. It'd still be a massive game. Beating Preston North End, especially doing the double over them, it doesn't happen that often. I think neither team have done it in like 30 or 40 years. So, yeah, to say it's not a big game is... I don't get where anybody of a Tangerine or Lily White persuasion is saying that.
Well, I think
unless they're trying to play it down in case they're scared to get beat.
That's exactly what Tom was doing there, I think, and I've probably done the same. Tom, FYI, I did a little piece for a Forest blog in the week, and one of the questions they asked me was, would you take losing 3-0 against Forest on Saturday? This was on the Tuesday. Thereby extinguishing your own very faint playoff hopes if it meant you could beat PNE 3-0 on Tuesday night. And I immediately said, yes, hands down. I'd rather have the 3-0 win and do the double. I think as Joe mentioned, we haven't done the double, or there hasn't been a double in this game since, Sean will back me up here, 1972, 73, or was it the other one? 73, 74.
Yeah.
We were preparing this document before we came on, and I was going to say 72, 73. But we had back-to-back doubles then, or or if you're a Swansea fan, a back-to-back double. If anyone saw that banner from the Swansea Cardiff game.
Oh yeah, they don't know how to spell it. Yeah.
I think you can still see
you-
the old Blackpool Preston game, so that's 73-74 season on YouTube. I think it's still there. I see it always stands out because the Preston end at Blackpool Road's half empty, just for a change. You know, it was like there was only about 1,500 of them there.
Another little jibe and a little stab from Tim.
Well, we
there.
couldn't remind them when they didn't even feel the Gene Kelly one year, did they? Come on, I mean, it's.
We discussed this on the last occasion.
Yes, I think we did.
I think you'll recall. It was
It's a
it was
shame.
sold out.
It's a shame the 1970s game at Deepdale isn't available on YouTube.
Fred Pickering hat trick.
Yes, is that when you went up and we went down?
That's the one. If
Yeah.
Carlsberg did football seasons, I think that's known as. So Tom, tomorrow, the match, it's 100th birthday anniversary for Tom Finney. Obviously,
Indeed.
we all know about Tom Finney, don't we? I've just put my show notes just to play have a bit of fun here. I've just said using this game for his 100th birthday celebration. Is it just a bit of a ruse from Peter Ridsdale to justify
To sell more
ticket al-
tickets.
to justify the halving of Blackpool's allocation and to ensure that the ground's full, so he can't get.
Well, it's not going to be full. Let's be honest. It's quite simply a reaction to what happened with our ticket allocation at your place. And I saw that Forest got 3,500 on Saturday. But the ground's not going to be full. We've had cup games in the past to Tottenham and one or two other people that have come, and Deepdale's not sold out. So I can understand where you're coming from, and I can also understand the Preston fans saying, they're not to get any more tickets than we were allowed at their place. But I mean, it's good for you that the game's been put on Sky in the end for fans that won't be able to get there. So at least they're going to be able to see it live. Rather than having to watch it back or watch it on some other way.
I can remember playing a game at Deepdale, another derby a few years back, and I do believe that it was a Tom Finney day then as well. And I think Charlie Adam ruined that day for you. I think it was the 1-0
that's when
game
you
where
can go
Charlie
loan.
Adam.
He ran from the halfway
2010,
line.
wasn't it, Joe? I think
That's
that
right.
one was the year we went up.
I think it was was it the year after? That was the game before you got promoted, wasn't it? Didn't you get promoted the year after?
I think it was the 2000. It was the year after the Wes Hulan one.
Yeah,
'Cause
I
we
think
did.
Yeah, it was
Charlie Adam was on
09, I
loan.
think.
Charlie Adam was on loan.
That's
then,
right.
Yeah.
So when is
because
actually Tom Finney's birthday?
We're tomorrow. It's 100th
Oh, is it actually
birthday,
tomorrow? Is it?
Yeah, it's
Actually his birthday? Would it have been his birthday tomorrow? Yeah.
It would have been
all right,
100 tomorrow. Yeah.
That's
I
actually.
mean, the
pretty-
game should have been 2 weeks ago when it was obviously the conference in Blackpool, and that was the excuse that they moved it because of policing requirements around the town. And obviously they must have identified the 5th of April as another date that they could play it, and obviously it's coincided well with us being able to celebrate to Tom. Effectively, it would have been 100 tomorrow. So it's even more pressure for us.
Instead of watching the Blackpool Preston game, we had to watch Boris make a tit of himself running along the Blackpool seafront. Didn't we?
Oh, to the Baywatch theme, that was fantastic.
That was brilliant, wasn't it?
It's a shame he didn't go running in Morecambe Bay.
While the tide was coming in, doing a bit of
Just,
cockling.
yeah, exactly.
Right, let's move on to a few stats. Sean, this is your chance to shine. Obviously, we've just mentioned.
Bore you to death, yeah.
Yeah. Go on,
Oh, you like the XG, don't you?
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
all
I remember that.
I just
from
get
last
passed
time.
on the street.
Yeah.
Passed on the street like, oh, that XG guy.
You could get yourself a personal brand, Sean. That XG guy. Get yourself out there.
Where was your precious XG on Saturday, Sean?
That's the. Well, I was going to say the.
We had a higher XG, Tom, than Nottingham Forest.
We didn't actually on the
didn't we?
on the ones that I from Info Goal anyway. That one I think probably a bit too nice on Callum Connolly's effort, but Yeah, I think that kind of just showed on Saturday that individual mistakes were the way that Forest created their chances, really. And if you actually look at the other chances within the game that Forest had, they were few and far between, really. They shifted the ball about well. They're an excellent side, I thought. They're really good at creating overloads, I think, in wide areas. I think that it surprised me that we didn't play the 5-4-1 that we played against Swansea and Sheffield United. Personally, I thought that, especially when he knows Steve Cooper so well, I was quite surprised at that. But he probably just thought, let's go for it, and it didn't quite pay off. But it's one of those days. But in terms of XG, recently we've really improved our underlying numbers. Generally, we've created a lot of high quality chances in games, and obviously you think back to Stoke, the amount of chances we had at Stoke and we didn't take them. We could have been 3-0 up by half time at Stoke. Sheffield United was similar game where we had a couple of really good chances and just didn't quite take them. And then you've got the Reading game as well, which obviously we did take. And
Huddersfield away, that was another one, Sean.
There's been, I think, particularly since the turn of the year, I think we're consistently creating more chances, because our big bugbear was that we were actually looking fairly consistent on a defensive front, and we just weren't creating a volume of a load of chances where you're going to expect that you're going to put one or two away again. I think at the moment, I think even against Forest, we were causing them problems, particularly in the air. I think we were playing quite well up top generally in terms of getting balls into the area in good positions. It was just one of those days where it didn't quite go for us. But in terms of the PNE side of things, I would have been relatively wary, I think, before Luton and Derby. But by the same token, I think that there's a reason for that. And I think that even the best of sides with the best of mentalities, a lot of players at Preston kind of know their time's coming to an end at the club. They know there's going to be a big overhaul in the summer. You're 13th, 14th in the division, your season's over, you're going to drop off naturally anyway, because why would you buy into a system and a team that are probably going to let you go in the summer? I think that there's kind of a bit to do with that. But Ryan Lowe's been consistently very good defensively with Preston this season. But in the past few games, I mean, 2.93 Luton, 2.59 Derby in 2 games. That's nearly 5 XG in 2 games. That's unsustainable on a defensive front. I mean, Derby could have really put them to the sword as much as Luton did. And I think that if they give up the same amount of chances against us, they're pretty confident, to be honest, in terms of the game. So that'll be a positive factor. I think another one for me, I think the key is Keshi Anderson in this game. I think he has to start. I think if you're looking at his stats, we think of Bowler as the guy that can take the ball forward and carry the ball forward. But in terms of like average carry distance, so that's the amount of so when he gets the ball and he goes on a dribble, then that's the amount of yardage that he takes up. It's 10 meters, which is the same as Bowler in terms of his average carry per dribble, which kind of shows that Keshi's as much of a ball carrier up the field, getting you up the park as Josh Bowler is. And 2 key passes a game for Keshi, 4 goals, 4 assists. He's, for me, vital in games like this. I think he's so important. As much as CJ Hamilton's improved, I just think it's a must that Keshi plays on the left wing in this one for me. I think he could make the difference. And I think generally across the season, we've conceded a lot more chances than Preston, but in the past few games now, Ryan Lowe's system's starting to unravel a tiny bit, and obviously that's why it's changed against Derby. And I think that's generally, as I said before, it's because of the personnel, and it's going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised to see Greg Cunningham in at left wing back if they keep the back 5 that they have. I'm surprised they don't play Ali McCann more. These are players that I think could affect us. If you've got, say, you're looking at the system that they're playing, if they actually play right wing back and left wing back in the positions, then perhaps they could do something with that. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if they switched. And so generally, like I say, it's for me, it'll be goalkeepers as well. I think the final point is probably goalkeepers. We've both got top quality goalkeepers, regardless of what happened on Saturday. Dan Grimshaw's prevented 4.1 goals since he's been in the net. Daniel Everson's 3.6, Chris Maxwell's 3.4. Every single keeper at our disposal is top quality, and I think that'll be a big difference in the game as well. So we're pretty tight, to be honest, but I think that generally you're probably saying that we probably got the upper hand just at this point in time.
Mm-hmm. Tom, let's just come over to you next then. So I think, as Sean said, it's going to be a tight game. These games always are. They're very tight, nervy affairs. I expect the game to be that, particularly in the first half. But who's the sort of player who you expect Preston, who's going to give that a bit of magic, and who could potentially hurt Blackpool, and who are your danger men, who you're looking to hopefully, hopefully for you, get the goals and do one?
Our our top scorer doesn't appear to be. Well, Brian Law doesn't seem to be a massive fan of Emile Reese, who's got 17 goals, which is a bit strange. He's obviously brought in Cameron Archer from Aston Villa, and that boy can play. I think he'll probably feature for Aston Villa next season in the Premier League. I'd be very surprised if he went out on loan again. His scoring rate at the minute is 1 in 2, or just over 1 in 2 since he's been here. He's got, I think, 5 or 6 goals in about 12, 13 appearances. He's very lively. He's very strong for what he looks. He's got a low centre of gravity, and he's got an eye for goal. You'll have probably seen a couple of goals that he's scored away at Peterborough, curled into the top corner. So he's clearly a danger man. Whether he plays up front with Ched Evans as a foil for him, or whether he plays the 3 up front, which he played at Derby on Saturday, which clearly didn't work, although we went down to 10 men, and so Reese was hooked off. After that, we haven't really troubled from the wing-back positions, which I think is how Lowe wants to play because of the chopping and changing there. I have no idea who's going to play left wing-back. Josh Hurl's been in and out. Greg Cunningham's back from a calf injury. He may play. He might shift Andrew Hughes out there, but he's not very mobile, and he's looked better as a back 3. So then you're looking at the midfield. Can we get a grip in midfield? You've got Ben Whiteman, who kind of sits in front of the back 4, and then Daniel Johnson and Alan Brown. I would personally play Ali McCann. I think he's got a better engine. I think he'll be getting in faces, whereas Alan Brown seems to be struggling for form at the moment. And then after that, you've got a wealth of players that are out of contract and that they've been in and out all season. People like Scott Sinclair, people a bit like Brad Potts. Those are the players which they feature every now and again. They come on for 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, but clearly their future lies away. So it's difficult knowing exactly what the setup's going to be. I said he made some big changes for Saturday, brought Liam Lindsay in again, and he was red carded for his second time in 3 games. So before that, the back 5 had played quite well with Vandenberg, Bauer and Hughes and Everson, who I think is capable enough of playing in the Premier League next season. He's an outstanding goalkeeper, and he has kept the score down in a lot of games. He normally makes one save that you sort of rubbing your eyes going, how on earth has he made that per game? So again, a big moment is probably going to be keeper errors, and can someone capitalise? The game at your place, we missed a big chance at 1-0 down. Anderson scuffed it into the bottom corner off his standing foot. And then the one bit of brilliance in the game was when Yates threaded it through to Medine and finished the game off. But apart from that, there was sort of the game just existed, really, if I could use that terminology. I think everyone was a bit nervous about it. I think it'll probably be the same tomorrow night. There might be shouting and bawling for the first 10, 15 minutes, but I think the players will be, seeing each other out, seeing what they can do, and it might be an error that wins it either way, 0-0, 1-1, or 1-0 either way, maybe. It's a bit of a strange game, I think.
Okay, everyone, it's time for you to put your necks on the chopping block and give your match predictions. Let's go from top left to right. So let's start with you, Sean. Work our way around.
2-0 to Blackpool. Perhaps want to get an early goal. I think Preston have started quite slow under Lowe in most games. If we can snatch a goal when they're not quite on it at the start of the game and then soak up the pressure for a bit, they're obviously going to start throwing men forward in the last stages, and we finish the game off on the break. That'd be nice. So
we've hardly scored. We've hardly scored in the first half under Lowe.
Yeah.
I think until recently, we were going in at 0-0 or losing, and we were a second half team really. So I think that's a good shout.
We've conceded quite a lot of late goals this season, so let's hope that doesn't continue. Joe, over to you. Give us your thoughts.
Massive game, even though Sean doesn't think so. Massive game, big expectations from both sets of fans. Lots on the line. Bright lights under the flooders, Sky TV. It's all set up 0-0.
Yeah,
100% Joe, correct.
Yeah. Tim, we haven't got a great record on Sky.
I was just going to say exactly the same thing. We did play quite well against QPR, didn't we? In our
Still
in
lost
our-
though.
No, we
no, we didn't.
won
We
that
drew.
game.
We should have won.
No, we won that game. I refuse to recognise that game as a draw. We won. Simple as.
We should have won. And yeah, so to be honest, I was going to say exactly the same as Joe. I think it's got actually. I hope it isn't, but I think it's going to be 0-0.
Tom, over to you.
It's a really difficult one to call, but I can't back against Preston on Tom Finney's 100th birthday.
No.
So I'm going to say that it'll be 2-0 Preston, a reverse of the fixture from last October. I hope.
I'll go a very cagey 1-1 draw. I think we're going to score in the second half, and you're going to equalise in the 94th minute. Pray I'm wrong, because we've had a lot of gut wrenching last minute winners, so very late goals. But yeah, let's go for 1-1. Right, anyone?
If it's
else?
Brad Potts, that'd be a story. But,
Right, any
it won't be
closing thoughts?
Barcusin anyway.
Why not?
He's not featuring. He's got an injury, so he's been out for a couple of months now.
Right, does anyone think we're just going to do our picking the Blackpool starting 11, Tom? So does anyone else got anything to say just before Tom drops off? Tim, maybe?
Yeah, just enjoy the atmosphere tomorrow, Tom. It'll be unique. Best atmosphere of the season, and we'll show you how to do it. None of the big fat boo.
Oh, God. Well, I look for. God, please take the camera off him.
Even if you cut our support in half, we'll make twice the amount of noise.
Well, safe trips to everyone that's coming down. Let's hope there's no idiots about, and hopefully football is the winner tomorrow, and Preston
Actually,
come out on top.
It's interesting that the powers that be have decided that it's not against anybody's human rights to keep people back at the end of the game this time.
Funny that one, isn't it?
Yeah, but which is. It's sensible, and I've no objections whatsoever to a 5 or 10 minute holdback to make sure that
They
everybody leaves the ground properly.
They actually said to me they did do a hold back on Bloomfield Road of Preston fans after that game at home, but I mean,
yeah, they held back both sets of supporters and said, right now,
and then released them into the same street, didn't they?
Yeah, they held them back, and they went ready, steady, off you go, fight.
Yeah.
They sent everyone down those two blind alleys, didn't they? Where they were inevitably going to meet Savile Road and whatever the other one was.
It's certainly not the Savile Road in London, is it? But the police, Tom, were instrumental in limiting the Preston allocation at Bloomfield Road. They cited that as one of their reasons, the mixing of the fans. So that's an annoying factor for both sets of supporters, that it's had this knock-on effect that we've had our allocation limited. Indirectly because of the Blackpool police and their failure just to say, right, we can hold Preston fans back for 5 minutes. No one would have minded, would they, if it means an extra 1,000 going in?
I understand that there has been a bigger consultation with Paul Elliott of Preston Police regarding this fixture. There's a few cordons in and around the away end, and that's closed off to anyone other than away fans. And obviously there is people kept back, but there's obviously people that are always looking out for trouble. But hopefully it'll pass without anything. I know there was a meeting with on Moore Park.
There was a meeting between various fans groups and the police and the ground safety officers, I think, from Blackpool and Preston about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think. And it's sensible, isn't it? Because it was chaotic at the home game, and you don't want to see that repeated. And I said it is a pity everybody can't go in, and I think we should have given you more at the home game. But the problem was, I think we had cause to use 2 of those blocks, and you can't share that northeast section. It's just not possible to do it. So it's one of them. And we did it. We can do it for Forest, and we did it with Blackpool because there wasn't as much interest from Blackpool fans in actually filling those stands. So I get both sides of it, really, to be fair.
But that aside, it's going to be a brilliant atmosphere on the Cop, though, isn't it?
It should be right next. Yeah. Have you sold out the Cop, or has everybody sort of headed?
They've all exchanged their tickets. I think a lot of exchanged.
Yeah,
tickets.
I think people have moved stands into the cop for the fixture, but I think the last I'd seen the cop, well, the section in the cop where the home fans are, is sold out. I think there's bits and pieces in the other 3 stands, but I didn't expect us to sell out Deepdale because we've not done that for cup games against Premier League teams. I don't.
What we're looking at realistically,
week.
18,000 or something. Do you think?
I think we'll top 20, but just maybe 19,800, 20, or just over 20,000. Because if you lose maybe 1,500 between the 2 fans, and then maybe another 1,000 around the ground, or another 2,000, so you're probably looking just a smidgen over 20 or just under it, I suspect.
And how many of those have paid?
They were giving them away at Rock FM the morning, I heard.
Oh, well, I'm sure they'll give them away like Smarties. Anyway, it'll be good. It'll be good tomorrow. It'll be good.
It will.
Right, yeah. Well,
and we can do it all again next season.
Yeah.
So, tremendous.
It's going to, if Blackburn stay down, Burnley come down, Bolton go up, we can go up. It's going to be mouthwater in the Championship.
Distinct lack of optimism that we're going to win all of our remaining games and get into the playoffs here, to be honest. I'm quite surprised at this.
I think Darren McKenzie was playing that card of the messages, but I think that is optimism, and there's optimism, isn't there?
There is. Right. Thanks for coming on, Tom, anyway, and it's going to be a great occasion tomorrow. So,
Indeed.
Cheers, mate. Catch you later.
No, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Tom.
Cheers.
Cheers, Tom. Yeah. That's from Michael Preston, who is ironically a Blackpool fan. Spiteful Weasel's been the diplomat there. I think he's referring to the ticket allocation. Freezing ticket with a Happy Meal. That's funny. Right.
Well, I'm all set for tomorrow. I've got a couple of spikes on the end of my chair, and when we bang that first one in, I'm charging towards the opposite end of the cot.
Like one of those Roman chariots, they've got rotating knife spike on the side. So
it's got to be like that at the end of that film, 300. Just me charging towards 2,000 of them.
Maybe turbocharge your chair, Joe, to give it a bit more oomph.
Yeah, that's the one.
Souped it up.
Put an incendiary device on it in case we get beat and just drive towards it.
Kamikaze.
Yeah. This is for Tommy Clark.
I can't wait for Joe to get like a full pat down now in his wheelchair out of the ground.
Yeah, you might be a marked man.
Yeah.
Right, just before we go, we're going to pick our starting 11. Remember, this is our starting 11, not what we think Critch will do, because it's pointless trying to do that.
Exactly, no chance.
I know. Who would do such a thing?
It's like a broken pencil trying to pick his starting 11. Pointless. Which view should we do? That one's a bit nicer, isn't it?
Why have you got 5-3-2?
What formation are we going to start with?
I'd go 4-4-2.
Yeah, 4-4-2.
Tim?
4-4-2. I don't think he'll go back 5.
Right,
we haven't got the fullbacks to go.
I can't wait for the 3-3-3-1 tomorrow now.
Oh, and all sorts is going to go on in it.
It'll be something like this tomorrow. 4-2-3-1. We'll get it completely wrong. Anyway, so Chris Maxwell's back on the bench. Is he going to make a shock return to his old stamping ground?
No.
Do we want him to make a shock return to his old stamping ground?
No.
No.
Do we want Danny Grimshaw in there, even though he might still be stoned from the weekend?
Yeah, no. Look, he's been top class, and Tom Grimshaw. It's one of those days. He had a bit of an off day with his distribution. I think it always makes it worse when you're against such a clinical team as well. Every single small error was going to get capitalised upon.
Got it out of his system.
Yeah.
He was very slow loading then as well, wasn't he? To the shirt, how long it took. That's my CDN. He's looking at my new player picker app. Right back, which stupidly is number 5 down there. So, Sean, what's the word on Dujon? Is it looking likely he'll play?
I don't know, because it's Neil Critchley, isn't it? But he said that he's going to leave it as late as possible to make a decision on him. He said he'd had ice on it. To me, the fact that they're even talking.
What
about
was
putting
the
him
what
in.
was the injury, Sean?
Ankle?
Sorry,
It was his ankle.
Ankle.
I think he's sort of just gone over on it.
Gone over on it.
But I mean, the fact of he's even talking about playing him. Why would you even bring him into the question if it's an ankle injury? He's gone over on his ankle. If he's not just perfectly fine, is what I would think. And then 5 minutes later, I will then change my mind again, and then change my mind again. So,
I think Connolly will be good in this game. I think he's that, type of player that you want in the trenches, isn't he? And I think he'll do. And it would be good to actually see him as a right back.
He called him a warrior today. He called him a warrior today, Callum Connolly. So if we got Connolly the warrior at right back, I think.
I'd rather have a fully fit. I'd rather have a fully fit Connolly than
Agreed,
a 3/4 fit.
Agreed.
Sterling. What does everyone else think? Joe.
Yeah, if Sterling isn't fit and if Gabriel isn't in contention, then yeah, you've got to go Connolly.
Tim.
I think Gabriel's in contention. It's just whether it's worth playing him. Basically,
I wouldn't risk him with the schedule coming up. I know that this game's massive, and for me, it matters more than any other game left this season.
Well, let's just think about then the team to win this game.
Gabriel's got to play for me if he wants to win.
Connolly's going to be the fittest.
If Gabriel's fit and ready, I'd go Gabriel. If not, Connolly.
So would I.
So Tim, you've kind of got the casting vote here. So
yeah, well, I want Gabriel to play if he's fit, and Connolly if not. So if we're working on the assumptions that these players, I don't think Sterling's going to play. I don't think he should play. If he's gone over his ankle on Saturday,
I agree.
And we've all done it.
I haven't.
Well, thing is, I'm going for Connolly. I think Sean is. You two are both going to Gabriel, aren't you?
Yeah.
If Gabriel was available, would you pick him ahead?
Yeah, Gabriel. Yeah, 100%. Gabriel. But that's because
he was on the bench, wasn't he?
No, he didn't feature against.
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't on the bench against Forest.
He wasn't
Gabriel.
in the squad against.
He
Forest.
wasn't.
I don't think.
The
thing is, it depends whether you're going to go with what you think Critch is going to do. Because if assuming Gabriel's fit, I think we'd all start him. But I think in reality, I think Connolly's going to play there, and I think he'll do a decent job for us.
Yeah.
But so who you put in on that basis, I don't know, because I think most of us, if he's fit, would want Gabriel, wouldn't we?
Yeah,
he's
because
he's not.
But yeah, exactly. You just don't. He's so unclear. He couldn't have left it more in the open, which is great, but not when we're wanting to predict a lineup for a match.
We're not predicting a lineup. We're not predicting a lineup. We're not predicting a lineup.
Right, well, let's put Gabriel then. Gabriel.
Yeah, I'd pick Gabriel because I'd possibly want Connolly somewhere else.
I also want Connolly somewhere else. So
really?
Gabriel.
Yeah. Right, okay. Right. The majority has spoken. Right, this is going to be interesting. Should we put Big Marv in just to start off? He's starting, isn't he? Right. Tricky Dickie's back.
Yep.
I say throw him in based on Thornley's performance.
Agreed.
And Keogh.
I don't think based on Thornley's performance, though. I just think I would have thrown him in if Thornley had had a good game against Forest, because I think if you look at the schedule of the fixtures and I think of his experience, I'd have put him in anyway.
Yeah, we need that leadership quality. We need. I don't think Pateta's a leader on the pitch. He's obviously a very good player. I don't think he's a captain. I don't think he's a leader. Whereas
How dare you?
Keogh is.
Yeah,
Tim?
Keogh, I think.
100% Keogh.
Yep.
And I think he's going to do it as well. I think he will play him.
Left back.
Husband.
It's going to be Husband.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any doubt he's going to start Husband.
Reece James, anyone?
No.
He's going over there.
Obviously, if Gabriel and Sterling had been fit, then obviously Sterling would have played left back for me and Gabriel right back. I think that's the best full back pairing we've got at the moment, but obviously probably won't be the case. So Husband.
Is that an agreement? Yeah, everybody.
Yeah.
One bad game. To be fair, he's been pretty solid there
as well. I think it was pretty unfair, and he was getting overloaded by Jed Spence and Brennan Johnson on the right hand side.
Absolute quality players, and like Sean said, there was not much defensive backing from CJ Hamilton, was there?
And we are playing the Nobbers, not Forest.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, on into the midfield then. Right. Kevin Stewart, yeah, straight away.
Yeah.
Now this is the interesting one. Connolly or Dougal?
Connolly.
Right, that's two.
I would stick with Dougal. I think Dougal didn't play well on Saturday, but maybe he did have a little bit of, we spoke about this, didn't we, last night, a bit of jet lag from his trip, and he should have got over that now. Should have got it out of his system. And I think the pairing of Stewart and Dougal is our best midfield pairing. And he had a great game when we played the Nobbers at home, and we won the midfield battle then. So I wouldn't tamper.
That's Mackenzie saying Connolly.
Yeah, I was going to say. I think
saying Connolly.
Again, it isn't necessarily. I don't think necessarily from my point of view. I don't think it's because Dougal had a poor game on Saturday. I think that Connolly's just got recently, in particular, he's very good box-to-box midfielder, and he gets into the right areas. And if you need a goal from midfield, say you're in a tight affair, you're not looking to Dougal to get in the right position on the edge of the box. I think Connolly has this knack of getting into the right area at the right time at the moment, and he's a stronger midfielder. And they've got, as much as we can talk about how pretty average they've been, they have got a good midfield three, whether Brown plays or whether McCann plays. They're a good championship midfield three, and that's the area where you're going to have to battle hard.
Do you think there's an argument for putting all three of them in?
Sean's converting me. My vote goes for Connolly, and the vast majority of people in the chat are saying Connolly as well. I think he adds a bit more bite into the midfield, and he is a goal threat, whereas Dougal isn't.
Do you think there's any chance that they'll play the three of them?
I think that's the thing. I think he could potentially, but I feel like you need Lavery running in behind in this game. I think that you probably want someone running off Medine up front, and that will probably just about sway it. But it would make sense to match up their midfield three, because, like I said, we did so well in the first game, but it's a different team now. And as I said, I could see Brown getting dropped. I really could for them, which obviously would make them a more technical, more level-headed midfield three, shall we say?
Okay, so we've got a tie here. Me and Sean are Connolly. You two are Dougal, whereas Mitch is on the. Did you?
Joe said Connolly. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Sorry, Tim. You're overruled.
Connolly playing on a stinker now.
Don't worry, he'll play it right.
I actually think he'll end up as right back anyway.
Yeah,
so
exactly. So it's irrelevant.
Connolly is actually in our defenders list there, but in he goes. Right, left wing.
Lionel Keshi.
Yeah.
Cometh the hour, cometh the man.
He looked so lively straight away when he came on. I was so surprised.
Looked like he'd never been away. It looked like he wasn't have been away. Definitely Keshi.
Yeah.
Bowler. No argument there, I wouldn't have thought. Right. Medine was a bit leggy at the weekend, I thought.
Beasley
we drop him.
Beasley debut from the start, finally, for his 10-minute sub appearance.
Are we going with Medine then?
I don't think he's not going to start him. But I know what you mean. I know what you mean. He did look a bit jaded, I thought. But...
He's played a lot of football, like for more than I think any of us expected in January when Beasley came in. I think we all kind of thought they kind of just stick the position between them, but it's not been the case. I imagine that Beasley probably will get a little bit of a run once this and the Blackburn game are probably over.
I don't think this is the game where Beasley's going to start, is it?
No, 100%.
I think somebody's getting blood pressure levels are going up on the chat.
This is the game where Beasley comes off the bench and notches in the 90th minute.
Could you imagine the one, and then he leaves?
Big Gaz is going in. These are the sort of game that he thrives in. Yeah.
And I think they'll play Ched Evans instead of Reese as well. So we'll each have our shit house, but I think ours has just got a bit more technical ability.
Yeah, we've got the excess metric to deal with if we're winning 1-0, haven't we? Because it's a key metric. Expected shithousery. If you're winning 1-0, you need to wind the clock down, and Medine's the expert of that. Right, the final position. Jerry H flattered to deceive. the last game. I think this is a game where Shane Lavery starts. And I think this is a game where Shane Lavery scores. The big occasion. I don't think they'll be overrode by it. So my vote is for Shane Lavery.
I wonder Shane Lavery, though, before he got injured, he was an annoying little so-and-so who got in everybody's faces. I just want him to be a bit more like he was at the start of the season. I just think he seems to have... Does anybody else think he's sort of lost a bit of something? He just doesn't...
I think with it being a hamstring injury, I think he's just paced himself a bit and chasing down less. I think it's like he realizes if he runs about like that after that injury all the time, he's going to end up re-aggravating it. So I think he's wound his neck in a little bit. And it's a shame, but I can understand from his perspective why he's doing it, because it means that he'll play more games and not get as injured. Because obviously a hamstring injury, you're out fairly long term, depending on the severity of it, be it 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks if it's particularly bad. I think it's just a case of him managing the injury and trying, for it not to happen again.
I think a team as a whole have learned that to press at the right time rather than generally press aggressively. I think we've kind of learned that in the past probably 7 or 8 games more often than not. And I didn't think Yates was particularly bad or anything on Saturday. It's just that if you're looking for someone, I feel like the difference at the moment is that I would see Lavery making something for himself. I wouldn't see Yates making something for himself. And sometimes in narrow games, you need the person that's going to nick the ball off the defender and running behind or have that moment. And I think that Lavery's probably more capable of that at the moment than Yates is.
Interesting comment, Tony Lewis. We're going to have to press from the front, and Yates is great at that. Yeah, he is. It's a tough one. Right, my vote is Lavery. Joe?
Yeah, I'd probably agree, but then again, it doesn't really matter because only 5 or 6 of these will end up starting now.
Sean?
Yeah, Lavery for me.
Tim, not that it matters.
Full house. Yeah, I would start Lavery in this one.
So there we have it, gents. The team that's going to beat Preston tomorrow. Grimshaw, Husband, Ekpata, Keogh, Gabriel, Bowler, Connolly, Stewart, Anderson. I like this team. It's got nice balance.
If that comes out, you're buzzing, aren't you?
I like that. Do like that.
I'll be honest, I was quite happy with the team that was announced on a Saturday, and that didn't go according to plan. I'll be honest, more times than not, the team that thought the team's absolutely minging pre-match is when we usually do well and put in a storming performance. So, personally, I hope the team's absolutely rotten and Critchley sticks it down my throat like he usually does.
Right, gentlemen, I think we'll call it a day there. We're on an hour. We did a monster show last night. It was an hour and a half, Tim, didn't we?
It was. I feel like I've been in this honest room for a long time. No hat trick of Timisms tonight.
No,
unfortunately,
it's serious business now, isn't it? Time for frivolity's over. It's a serious business. We've got to get the ball back.
Regrettably, I couldn't replicate my performance last night at football tonight, so I didn't score there either. So it's been a bit of a dud tonight.
Anyway, right, everybody. We'll come back to you on the reaction show. Hopefully, we're talking about another double for Blackpool. And thanks for joining us. And a good evening. All that remains to be said is thanks for watching. Thanks for downloading Up the Pool.
Up the Pool.
Up the Pool.